Can you believe there's now only one episode left of Season 2 of Reacher? I definitely can't. It's absolutely flown by. The penultimate episode was just released, and it's safe to say that it was an episode that was filled with action and all things that we love about Reacher. With it concluding with Reacher arriving at New Age technology after Dixon and O'Donnell were taken hostage, and in the same style of cart that Franz was thrown out of the plane in, and I am also heading there. Let's recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from this episode. Here is Reacher Season 2 Episode 7 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Well, Russo didn't survive. That's the headline, and I'm pretty gutted about it, as Russo was a great character in this season of the show, so it's a shame that he was killed off. But seeing Reacher seek revenge in his name was something that was pretty epic and added weight behind his actions this week. I just got to start this video as well by talking about that scene in the hospital where Reacher was speaking with Grant and tortured him by pushing air into the balloon that was connected to his catheter, which in turn would cause his urethra to explode. That was a moment where I could quite literally feel the pain that Grant was in, and it wasn't even happening to me. Like how Reacher had never done it before, I had never seen it done to somebody in a show before, and wow, I could only imagine the pain that it would cause. That was one of Reacher's more sinister moments of the season, but when he got the information that he needed and then went on to kill him and said it was for Russo, it was a moment that made me smile for the character. I've also got to give a little moment to the fact that Season 2 decided to reference Roscoe. I really thought that we were going to get a bit with Roscoe in it where they decide to drop Marlowe and Jane down to Margrave, but it's understandable why we didn't get that. I'd have loved to have seen the character again, but it's just not meant to be in this season of the show. Finlay was definitely a good way of bridging the connection in this season, and it also made the most sense due to geographical location of when he did appear. Reacher's loyalty to justice. Reacher's loyalty to justice is something which has been extremely prominent in this season of the show, and it also was in Season 1 as well. The whole season has been about corruption from officers, not knowing who is actually on the side of the law, and former officers going to work at New Age with the intention of earning a quick buck to lose all integrity that they spent their career fighting for and earning. This was something which was also seen during the flashback in this week's episode 2. The drug bust that Reacher was told to call off due to Fields demanding it to be stopped for personal gain for the Colonel was something that Reacher ignored and went ahead with. This was included because I feel it not only reinforced the closeness of the 110th unit and the fact that they would stick by each other no matter what, but it was also done to show us that Reacher puts justice and the safety of innocent people above all things. Even his own position in the military, showing that he was the opposite to Fields and the Colonel that were above him. He had a one-chance shot to take out the people that were funneling it into the city, and he chose to do that knowing full well that he and the rest of the division would be punished and suspended, which is exactly what happened and why he wasn't apologetic over why he did it, because he essentially did the right thing, but in the eyes of his superiors he'd done wrong for going against their orders. This loyalty was also brought up when Reacher killed Marsh, the person who snitched on Russo getting close to Langston, showing the respect that Reacher has for people that are loyal and protect the laws in place. The fight scene during the bust was one of the best in this season of the show, and there were some great moments in it. For me, the part where Reacher pulled the guy's fingers apart was a move that I didn't expect him to pull, but it was one that looked absolutely brutal. Dixon and O'Donnell are held hostage. To be honest, I thought this was kind of just shoehorned into the episode. Obviously, it was needed to give Reacher the immediate reason to go to the New Age facility, but I think it kind of went against what we've seen in the show so far. We've seen just how good of fighters both Dixon and O'Donnell have been all throughout this season of the show, and how careful they've been when it comes to not being spotted by anybody that was suspicious. And without us even seeing it happen, they were just taken. I would have liked to have seen how it happened and understood truly why it happened, rather than just seeing Langston just on the phone and relaying it to Reacher. I'm actually getting sick of only seeing Langston on the phone. It just feels a bit lazy. I initially wondered if maybe they were in on it, considering that we didn't see it happen. But I don't think that's the case, seeing as though they were being spoken to like they were actual hostages and being harmed as well. With Dixon saying to O'Donnell at the start that he had more to lose than what she did, it does make me wonder if we're going to be seeing the end of O'Donnell, as that kind of felt like a clue about what was to come in the finale. Maybe one of them won't make it, and it might be O'Donnell, But with Reacher's plan that he has up his sleeve, maybe they're integral to it, and they'll need to be freed. We saw that Reacher took a pin out of the paper that he was holding, so I imagine that's there to be able to unlock the cuffs that he's inevitably going to be put in. AM is finally heading to New Age, and what does it mean? As we were approaching the end of the episode, I was shocked that we hadn't had our predictable 90-second cameo from our pal AM. As per every episode in the show, the moment did arrive, and it was just as underwhelming as every other time that he's appeared on screen. However, the shock moment? He didn't actually kill anybody. We saw that the person who took the missiles a couple of episodes back had met with him, and after AM had laid eyes on them, he asked him to take him to where he'd be able to find the engineer that knew how to work the Little Wing chips. This is going to be where Langston is at the New Age facility. So we're now going to be seeing Reacher, Langston, and AM all in the same building. This is something that's going to be tied into what we're going to be seeing unfold in the finale. The smirk that Reacher had during the closing moments was a sign of things that were to come. He knew that he had his plan and that he felt that he was going to be safe. We saw Reacher reach out to Senator Lavoie where he wanted to use some of his security team, ex-SEALs and Force members. So it feels like we're going to be seeing the show go all season 1 finale in the warehouse, just like it did in Margrave. I think we're going to be seeing the biggest battle of them all, and AM finally in a situation where he's going to be put to the test when he's up against members of the 110th, and also Reacher, the person who mirrors him most in terms of skill set and mindset. However, the small differentiating factors put them on the opposite side of the law, so it's going to be a big moment when the pair of them do come face to face. Overall review. I thought this was the best episode that we've had for a couple of weeks. However, I would say that this has confirmed to me that this season of the show just isn't a touch on the first installment. For me, the pacing of this season just hasn't felt as fluid as the previous one, and the Dixon and O'Donnell situation is a perfect example of that. We saw everything that happened in the first, and this one has just kind of been brushing over things. I'd also say that one thing that stood out to me was the fact that there was no mention of Swan or his safety in this episode, which confused me slightly. Because presumably, you'd think that Reacher initially thought that he was being held hostage, but in this episode there was no reference at all. Judging by the fact that Dixon and O'Donnell were the only people that were being held hostage, one would have to presume that Swan is dead, and has been for some time. Or Swan is actually in on it and we've been double bluffed. I would kind of like it if Swan was in on it, as we'd need to see Reacher in the moral conflict of him battling his loyalty to justice, whilst also needing to kill somebody that he once cared so much about and even saved his life at one point. That's why I feel he could be involved, because if you think about it, if Swan was never saved by Reacher, then the rest of the 110th may have still been alive, and I think that could weigh on Reacher's mind. With only one episode to go, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. We're about to see Reacher play the long game with his plan, something that we don't often see. He usually goes in and kicks up a storm, so I'm intrigued to see this type of Reacher and how effective his plan's going to be. So, there you have it, Reacher Season 2 Episode 7 Ending Explained.